you have to start thinking, like we were talking about earlier, we were talking about intelligence, right? So this is a political issue, but intelligence is involved here. We are selecting mediocre leaders of mediocre intelligence, in my opinion. These people are talking heads, and they're manipulated, and you can see that in their face. If you've seen it, if you've studied enough psychology, you'll see that. And the thing is, we need smart, intelligent leaders who will change things that need to be changed, and will keep things the same that need to be kept the same. But we've had a flip-flop. We've had major societal problems where we change things that shouldn't be changed to things they shouldn't be changed to, and we don't keep things the same that we need, traditions that are effective or serve some purpose. It's a blend of the two, but we've made flip-flop decisions on that in recent years. We haven't as a people. The public has often, through polls and other things like that, spoken that they disagree with political motives around the world in many countries, so that's clear.
Daniel Owlfeather, and what is your education in psychology, or what is your education in general?
I have a Bachelor's of Science in Liberal Studies, including cultural anthropology, sociology, and a variety of other subjects. I went to 4 different colleges to get that degree, so I spent a lot of time, did a lot of external work outside of the regular program. Then I got my Master's of Arts in Counseling Psychology in 2012, and I'm a licensed professional counselor in the state. So much of this discussion, much of what we discuss here really has little to do with the practice of psychology in my professional experience.
Here's the first question. What is psychology?
Well, the standard def is, the study of thinking and behavior, which is an okay, actually, way to describe it, but I think that's very limited. But any label we put on it, or any definition we try to make of psychology, is going to be difficult. I think of it in an old world sort of way. I think of it as the study of the logos. The logos, also reason, logic is implied there, but also the soul, right, is implied by the word logos and how it was used. So this is a way I think of it. What is the phenomena, the enigma that is being human in a holistic way. That's psychology to me, is looking at the entire picture, uncompartmentalized, enmeshed culturally in the context of some life. You look at each human being as a unique phenomena which is occurring in front of you, and you're studying the logos of that person, the logics of that person, the lenses of that person, the intelligence of that person, their talents, their limitations. You're looking at how they show up. You're looking at their soul, so that the Trinity that always is so cliche but is really useful is mind, body, spirit. That covers a lot. I mean, that's not all of the human being. I believe a human being has at least 64 major dimensions. I believe that it's more likely that as you practice psychology over the course of a life, you're seeing people in context of 112 different aspects or layers, kind of like they're a being of many dimensions, right? And so you start to see a collection of these things as the person. Like the rose, right? So I use this example. The rose is made up of non-rose elements. It's lots of different things. It's minerals, it's sunlight, it's proteins, it's liquid, it's these plasmas, water plasmas and things going on inside of this being. It's a flower. It's blooming, it's opening up. What is its potential? What is its blueprint for what it can be, reach its ultimate potential there? So that's like psychology. You're looking at how does a human being behave like a rose bloom, how does the human being reach their potential or max themselves out. That's a never-ending process, but because of our biology and our vessel, we die, and the process is cyclical, circular that way. That's all psychology. I mean, that's the most minimalist definition I have for it, is at least that complex, and then that's not including behavior and the mind as a modern concept in psychology, obviously neuroscience, perception, sensation, and perception concepts, which really help us understand how much the small sliver of reality that really we're tasting through the senses, all the senses of the body. Is a very limited range of reality, right? So that's psychology.
That's a really good answer.
That's the best I can give you.
What is your view of politics?
The concept that I was referring to that night is a crazy concept. I mean, I admit it's far-fetched and simply sort of provocative and on purpose, to be kind of like being a little satirical about the nature of ridiculousness of politics, really, from a logical perspective. It's like, what are you guys even doing? It's like worse than a bad, sitcom. It's not even funny anymore, what goes on. But here's the thing, all right? So these leadership qualities, I think they centered on intelligence, which is another theme, obviously, at this point. And then they center on values, basic values and principles that person has. But they have to be in touch with reality. I mean, here's what one of my first criticisms I always talk about in politics. Politicians are often trained in business, law, economics, politics, political sciences of a variety of types. And these people are trained just like a lawyer or somebody a doctor that goes to medical school for 8 years. And it's a great educational experience. It's very in-depth usually. But there's very poor understanding from the majority of politicians in the world today, and especially in America, of the social sciences. It's a basic problem. We have to solve it because it appears as though all the actions and behaviors of politicians in power today, minus a very few senators, maybe a couple of senators and congressmen out there, they make decisions which reflect that they know very little about culture, society, and what people's daily lives are really like, and in a variety of different contexts and levels of socioeconomic status. And I'm not ultra rich or ultra poor, but I know what those things. I can see how they're like. I can see how they differ. Those people are different and how they behave differently, and what their lives must be like through a variety of analyses. That anyone can realize that, but it takes a little bit of study. It takes some collegiate level work. It takes being pushed, and studying American studies, sociology, cultural anthropology, history, a variety of different other subtopics is essential for leadership, because the best leaders are the people who are in touch with a broad range of the culture that they were ruling over. And it's the same today. Politicians need to understand culture really well. And culture is a complex topic because it creates cognitive dissonance. You are faced with hypocrisies in your own society. You're faced with, people say, I'm an American, I'm proud to be an American, I love America. Yes, so do I. But the thing is, just because you love it doesn't mean that you get to overlook basic idiotic things that you shouldn't do because they're bad for your health, they're bad for everyone in the society. It's completely asinine behavior. I mean, it's juvenile nonsense. So it's not. See, this is where progress goes, and this is why intelligence is a problem at every level. Because dumb people, they can't figure out how to run things. They're not going to run things. If you have dumb people running things, you replace them with smarter people. That's the best protocol you can have. If you ever find yourself in a fair fight, you're a bad strategist, right? So set it up so that things work well. Engineer a culture which doesn't have tons of hypocrisies, isn't wildly out of control, has some principles and values that they hold dear to them, not because they're going to be shot on the street if they don't comply. You know what I mean? You have to have people who want to live at a certain standard of self-esteem and self-love, and there's something there to people's behavior. I think honestly, politics and psychology aren't that far. You see how they're related. I mean, it's all related. But I'm also thinking and talking about psychology a lot, so right now in my life, a lot of my discussions mix the two up because I'm talking about these concepts and things. So it makes for an interesting remix in my mind. Right? I mean, you've had experiences like that. So.
Do you stay abreast of current politics? What's your take?
No, we have zero control over it, so why even concern yourself with it?
Oh, because the system is flawed with the voting? Or why?
Well, I mean, yeah, that's true. That's true too.
Let's talk about that. What that is.
All right. So, yeah, I mean, electoral college is the first problem. It's it doesn't prevent the populace from electing who they want to elect necessarily. I'm not saying that it's broken, but I'm saying that it can be used as a sort of a mitigating effect for when there's a situation that there is disagreement among who should be a leader or who should be the leader of, or that figurehead for our country. So yeah, but that's not the only reason. Mainly because I distrust the people who conduct polling. I mistrust the national collection. I miss at the head of the snake that is America, there's a lot of secrecy, a lot of, I'm a person who thinks that transparency in business and economics is probably a good idea in many cases. It doesn't have to be totally transparent, but there needs to be a lot more than there is. And with governments being as secretive and manipulative and having knowing what I know about what my tax dollars have been used to do in the world, which is really disgusting, that I'm disgusted with that. I'm not delusional. I know that they can't be trusted in many ways, and I'm sure there's lots of nice people that work in the government and good people there, but they ultimately there are some bad ones in there that are in very structural positions. They can use that to their advantage to take advantage.
That's another thing
Yeah.
we can talk about. Is
Okay, so lobbyists. All I have to say about lobbyists is if the big pharmaceutical industries can pay lobbyists approximately $900 billion a year to get what they want on Capitol Hill as far as the legal, what they're able to do as a corporation. That to me is like alarm bells. That's obviously like there's just lots of ethical and moral things you could cite about the criticisms that have been brought up about psychiatry in the U.S., overdiagnosis, labeling problems with children involved, and so yeah, I mean that's a major ethical and moral systemic problem, I think. What else you said?
There's Bernie Sanders. We could talk about how ancient Rome. You could argue, like from an economic theory perspective, that ancient Rome had lobbyists. In other words, the military was funded, like backed by all these corporate entities for whatever corporate definition of during the Roman Empire. In other words, people that made the weapons, like manufacturers and whatever, and that they were influencing politicians back in the day. The nature of government is just always going to be tied up with corporations or groups of.
So here's the thing. There's different philosophies on this. I think that I am no political scientist or economic theorist by any stretch of the imagination. As a matter of fact, I try to use as little math in life as possible. But that having been said, I can still conceptualize of massive numbers and concepts, conceptual math, like big picture math, like I understand quite well in statistics, but probabilities, things like that. But I really don't know. The idea here is you want to break up massive monopolies and corporate structures which reach a certain size and level of influence on a governmental structure. Once there's a price, everything has a price. You can buy a government. It's been proven. People have done it in the real world. So people have joked in the world that America is like the new Roman Empire. There's even been stand-up comics who have said this. Eddie Izzard being one of them. He's watch out, you guys you look like you're the new Roman Empire, because we basically did bring some bad habits with us in the way that we systematically developed democracy. I mean, French democracy, a little different. I don't think anybody's ever really achieved true democracy yet. You can't have any homeless people if you want to have a democracy. One, you can't say that you're a democracy and then in 1920 you decide to give women, in the 1960s you give black people the vote. That to me is like, you couldn't really have called yourself a democracy until after that point, really, until every member of the society had been able to participate in the process of electing, erecting political ideas, really, through leaders. So, I don't know. That's my thought on it is, we brought some bad habits with us. We need to break apart massive entities which are dangerous, because when a corporation reaches a certain size and then they decide that the bottom line profits are more important than ethical guidelines and moral behavior, which is what's happening in many cases, I think, you do have a serious threat to the population. I mean, the military should actually intervene in many of those cases. I really think the military is under oath, really, in some sort of way, if you interpret it one way, to intervene on the citizens' behalf against corporations. They're not governments. They're not part of our government, and at the federal, I'm surprised that at the federal level and at the military level that they haven't intervened in some corporate behaviors and activities. I mean, it has been done in the past, but I mean, I don't know enough about that. But Man,
knowing the
so
full take on the founding
first
fathers.
thing that I have to tell people, because I am like obviously very spiritual kind of person, but I have some issue with certain religious practices in the world. Founding fathers, so many of them were, they believed in weird things. They did not believe in Protestant ideas. Let's just say that. It's a delusion that many people think that all these founding father figures, all these people involved in the process of the Constitution were somehow all Protestants. Many of them were Protestants, obviously, Catholics. There's lots of religious people in there, of course. And many people at the time just casually said, "Oh yeah, sure, I believe in God," or something like this, not really knowing what that word means. I mean, that word doesn't really function in language anymore, as far as I'm concerned. There's 2,700 or something like this different gods. Which one are you even talking about anymore? At that point, people just throw this thing around, this G word around. But anyway, so that's not the point. Founding fathers, many of them I think were very like humanist in nature, almost in a way, like very not atheists, but like very like maybe naturalists in a way. There's some naturalists in there, some maybe an atheist, a secret atheist that they never really revealed that. Agnostic people, maybe some humanistic sort of thinkers, and then lots of other Protestants and people who had brought that run from religious oppression in Europe prior. But the point being that they're nothing like what sometimes they're portrayed as. And if they were alive today, I think we would hear a lot of flack from them, obviously, about what we've done to the Constitution. There's certain things we had to change about the Constitution, obviously, but there's a lot of things that we violated severely as far as like their vision, and that's just a huge mistake. The main ones I'm concerned with are like allowing money into politics. That's a big no-no. Maybe not constitutionally, but I think it's implied in certain other documents, federal documents. Maybe the Federalist Papers, I don't even know. But the point being that I think there's been major changes to the way that the government functions since it was envisioned by those men. And in the ways that it's changed have not been good, in a variety of ways.